inside or outside, the player nicknamed the Mailman could deliver buckets in just about any way. For nearly 2 decades, Karl Malone put the power in power forward, and by the time he retired, the 2-time MVP ranked second all-time on the career scoring list.
The Mailman, I call him Gators and jeans. He know what I'm talking about, Gators and jeans. He wear gator boots and tight jeans, that's him. But to me, I think that was the greatest power forward ever. I just have to say that because what he did on the block with him and John Stockton on the pick and roll, and he can get to where he wanted to do and put that foot, that knee in your chest as you go up and score the basketball the way he did. I don't care what nobody say, you could never handle Karl Malone on the block by yourself one-on-one.
The Mailman, Karl Malone. You see the little move where he put his hand behind his head.
You're watching one of the all-time greats at any position, in any era.
Man, that guy physically was one of the most imposing players to go against. And I think that hindered you oftentimes on how you wanted to approach it, because I'd never seen a guy that big could run like that. I mean, he was incredible on the wing at running the floor. And even in our era, which is probably the most physical era we had, when you talk about basketball, nobody was getting in front of him. When you saw that train coming downhill, you were just a little shy about wanting to sacrifice your body. And you hear the line today about it being a business decision. That's what it was with Karl.
You couldn't stop him with a Mack truck.
I used to watch him punish all my guys, all of them. Every power forward I ever played with, we'd have to double. And he'd know we had to double, and he always wanted me to come down and double so he could drop it out to my guys. So every time he got the ball, he wasn't worried about the guy. He'd be looking at me to see what I was going to do. And if I didn't come, he'd just dribble, and shoot the jumper, and he'd be like, you better come, Shaq. You better come help him, Shaq. You better tell him who I am, Shaq.
His uniqueness came from his ability to be, would you think he would be a gross motor skill guy? When I say gross, I mean big steps. Everything's big, boom, because of his size and strength. You just think of a fine motor skill, you think of Steph Curry, a guy who moves in like this. He was a guy who had both at his size. He could shoot the basketball, he could handle it, he ran the lane. He wasn't just a big, gross motor skill guy. He was a guy who could do fine motor skills at such a big size. That was his uniqueness. And man, I don't know if there's another guy like that.
Well, they called him the Mailman, of course, but they could have also called Karl Malone a machine. He was the first ever to put together 2,000-point seasons for 11
Can I give him another name?
Seasons. Sure.
I don't know if I can say this on air, but he was the giver of butt whoopings, too.
I think you can say that. What was it like having to deal with Karl Malone?
Before the game, you would sit in your locker because I had to guard him all the time. And back then, Matt, we weren't doing a lot of double teams. And you had to guard him, and you just understood that you were going to physically get beat up. And Karl, when you were hitting him, he would always shake and show you those biceps and tell you, you can't hurt me. And you knew he was the only guy that with the ball, he would beat the defender up. Now think about that, because he would drop those elbows on you when he spin, and the officials were not going to call offensive fouls back then. You had to man up and guard him. And look, man, he was 6'9", 270 pounds, quick, fast, and strong. You couldn't guard him. You could only hope that he missed some shots, but he was just a load, man.
Did you ever face a more intimidating combination of skill and physicality than Karl Malone?
Never. And the thing about Karl was he didn't do it with any flair. It was just, he came right at you like a freight train. Like no Euro step to get past you. It was, I'm going through you or you getting out the way. Because early in the game, he would tell you, if you get in front of me, I will run you over. Because guess what? You're not going to be able to take that same charge in the fourth quarter. He would literally run you over. So you had to understand it was going to be a long physical night. And not only were you going to take some punishment, but you had to suck it up and give some, because you just couldn't be on the receiving end of those beatings for 48 minutes.
Karl Malone taught me it was okay to be an outdoorsman. Karl told me one time in the Olympics, I fish, I hunt, I do logs. You guys like rap music, whatever, this is what I do. And after hanging out with him, I was like, you know what? I like to fish, I like to hunt, I like to ride horses. So me and Karl, we have a special relationship, but as a player, it's the reason why he's the #1, 2 scorer in the league. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, one of the greatest power forwards to ever play the game.
Stockton, right side of Malone. Hands up! You got another, baby. The mailman.